Our friend Alan Hirsch likes to say that within every individual is the possibility of world transformation. And I think it's important to remember that whenever you see a fifth grade boy or a junior high girl, because I think it's hard for us to imagine that, but we believe that's completely true. And so in this chapter, the beginning of a movement, we're going to talk about really 5 reproducing principles. But along the way, we're also going to tell you the story of really Community Christian Church, where we began with just a handful of friends and have now seen God do things that we really never dreamed possible.
It was about 10 years ago that I was sitting having breakfast with a good friend of mine, and he looked across that table, and it was just something that he said to me. He goes, "Dave, I could see you being a church planter." And I gotta let you know, when he said that to me, I didn't know how to take it. I was speechless, which is very unusual for me, and it just hit me kind of weird. It was something that I never dreamed about, something I never planned to do, but it was one of those moments where I was like, man, it seems like something had connected there. Well, a few weeks later, it was actually I was doing some work around the house. It was I remember it was NFL Draft Day, which is like it's like a holiday in my house, and I have all the TVs on and the radio and all that kind of thing, just listening to what's going on with my favorite football team, and I was doing some work, and as I was doing that work and listening to the draft, this dream of planting a church really kind of burst inside of me, and in some ways, I just sat there that day just thinking through and dreaming about what it would be like to go and to lead a church. And I got to tell you, I had varying thoughts. I mean, some of the thoughts were absolutely thrilling thoughts, and I would get excited, and I could feel just an energy created around the idea of going and planting a church. But some of the thoughts were terrifying. I realized it would cost me a lot. One of the things that would cost me, I was the student minister at Community Christian at that time, and I absolutely loved that job. I loved that church. I loved working there. My family loved that church. I'd been there at that point for 7 years, and it had grown so much in what it meant to be a leader and what it meant to be reproducing other leaders, and I just had been built into so much. And so the idea of leaving Community Christian was not an idea that excited me. It was not something that I wanted to do. I loved my job. I loved that church. Also, I had at that time, I still do. I'm married, and I was, married and have 3 daughters. They were young at that point, and so the idea of taking them away from extended family and doing a church plant, I knew for me meant that I'd have to move, and so taking them away from extended family and from an area that we had grown up in was also kind of a terrifying thought for us. But it was over that summer that I just kept praying and wrestling with God about what He was doing, and if He was in this, or if this was just kind of my own idea, or something that I was just kind of dreaming up, and wasn't really what God was doing, or what God was up to in my life. And so that whole summer, I remember just wrestling with that idea. And there would be times where I'd come home, and me and my wife would be in discussion. There'd be times where I'd just come home from work, and I remember just laying, flat out on the carpet in our living room, and just crying out to God, saying, "God, is this you or is this me? Because if it's me, it's not. I don't want to do it. But God, if this is you, I'll follow you, and I want to do what you want me to do." It was later on that summer then that I started having some conversations with Dave and John Ferguson, and talking about what God was up to in my life. And it was talking to 2 guys that I love and that I respect and that I care about, and I know they care about me. And the idea of me leaving and not being on staff wasn't an idea that I was excited to bring up, but I just had to be honest with them and say, I just feel like God's doing something. And I remember having those conversations at the beginning, at Community Christian too. It wasn't necessarily in our culture to talk about church planting. We had just previously just launched the first campus, and so that was in our language. But going in church planting and stuff wasn't really something that at that time we were planning on doing. And so we weren't sure. We were like, okay, is this what God's up to, or is this something again that really isn't about? But throughout my conversation with Dave and with John, it was becoming more and more clear that God was moving, and that this is what really the direction He was leading us in. And it turned out that just a phenomenal opportunity opened up in the Denver, Colorado area. And it was about 9 years ago that myself and my wife and our kids, along with about 35 to 40 other people from community, moved out to the Denver area to launch Jacob's Well. And little did we know what God would do through that. And part of what he has done, I mean, we not only did through community and did we plant a new church in Jacob's Well, but that turned into a network of church planners that grew. It started with me, and then went to 5 or 6 of us, and now it's a network of church planners. I've got to assume that some of you that are watching this, that maybe God is doing something in your life. Some of you are probably relatives and you just want to see me on camera, but some of you, I really believe that God is. You're probably wondering, is God doing something? Is he moving in a direction in your life? And to those of you that maybe are wondering that, I want to encourage you as much as I can to be honest in your pursuit of who God is, and continue to pursue Him through this time. And there's going to be moments where you're going to be thrilled at the idea of what potentially could be happening through you stepping into whatever it is. It could be you stepping into a new relationship and helping that person find their way back to God. It could be you stepping out and becoming a leader of a small group. Or it could be you going in and starting a new church. And I know that for you, you might be terrified. You might be thrilled by the idea, and you also might be terrified by the idea of what it's going to cost. And if you're good enough, or if you have what it takes to be able to do that. And I just want to say to you that I understand that. I get those fears, and I had some of those very same fears. And God has consistently shown up time and time again in how He has when I didn't feel like I had what it took. He provided what I needed. He provided the strength, and many times in many different ways, He has shown me, and He has shown Himself to be faithful in the midst of a very difficult thing of stepping out and doing something new like this. And so I just want to encourage you and challenge you that if you think this is God, to go ahead and move and follow Him, and let Him take you where He will take you.